Due to a scheduling mix-up, the trailer that you saw for the vlog this week isn't for the vlog this week. It's for the vlog next week. And the trailer for the vlog this week, well, you've never seen it. Seen it? It's never been seen? You never saw it? Well, I never made one. Whatever. There was a mix-up, I lost the footage, then refound the footage, and now here we are. Don't be unreasonable. Random Thursday, mid-March. We are on the rooftop of the garage connecting the Win and the Encore, and we are getting ready to jump into a session. The plan, at least right now, is to jump into a 2-5 game, which I know is running. A 5-10-20 game if one starts to run, and if one does not start to run, we will probably head to the Bellagio for some 5-10. If we do decide to head to the Bellagio for some 5-10, you probably won't see that session because as of right now, MGM Properties aren't a big fan of the whole vlogging thing. But I'll tell you, I'll let you know. So we arrive at the Encore and get seated into a 2-5 game immediately. It's not exactly a day game, but it's not nighttime either. I find myself somewhere between the two shifts and I'm not sure what to expect. We get into the action pretty much right away. The low jack opens to $15, which is called by the small blind. We are in the big blind holding jack 9 suited, and although we could squeeze here, we opt not to and just call behind. 3 of us see a flop of Jack 3-8 rainbow in the small blind checks. Top pair, meh, kicker, but I'm not betting here. The low jack is still uncapped. He could just have aces, you know? So I check as well. The low jack continuation bets $25, which frees this hand of the small blind, but not me. I call. The turn 8? Damn good card. We still don't have the betting lead, but we lead anyway. Why, you ask? Well, the low jack opened and c-bet that flop, didn't he? How many 8s do you think he has? We bet small, $15, because what's he gonna do about it? Put yourself in his shoes and imagine that you do have aces. Are you going to raise? Probably not. He doesn't either. He just calls. The river brings in the backdoor flush draw and is an ace to boot. Well, that sucks. I check. If he has the gumption to bet sizably here, well then he'll most likely just win this one. But he doesn't. He checks behind and I win this pot when he tables pocket 7s. The next hand, I'm in the small blind. That's what happens after you are in the big blind. 2 players have decided for some ungodly reason to try and limp into this pot. Look, don't get me wrong. There are viable limping strategies that can be used to build a winning game plan. I mean, those strategies do exist. However, open limping in a mid-afternoon mediocre 2-5 game isn't executing a strategy. It's just giving in to fear. And it's obvious. The button raises to $25. What the button doesn't know, but I do know, is that I have A7 suited in the small blind. Now, the button could just be trying to capitalize on the limpers, or he could have a legitimately strong hand, or both, actually. I have a feeling it's more of the former than the latter. We raise to $90. Let's see what happens. Everyone folds is what happens. The first few hands, things are going great, but this seat kind of sucks. It's not very vlogging friendly. When the 3 seat decides to try his hand at a nearby Buffalo machine, we quickly seat change. Buffalo! An orbit or so passes with not much happening, but here, the button limps and the small blind does as well. I look down at 2 red 8s in the big blind. I could go either way here. Probably should raise, protect our hand a bit, and keep it moving, but whatever. I tap the table and decide to see a flop. 5 deuce 4 with 2 hearts. The small blind leads for $10 and I call with my overpair. The button gets out of the way. The 6 of clubs falls on the turn and now the small blind checks. This is a limped pot. There's a one-liner to a straight on board, but I have a very vulnerable overpair. Our villain having a 3 isn't out of the question. Checking back this hand and seeing the river probably isn't the worst play, as me betting and getting called by a hand that isn't 2 pair plus is probably going to be hard. I decide not to listen to any of that internal dialogue though. I decide to bet $35 and I get quickly check raised to $125 by Limpy McLimperson in the small blind. I'm dead. You know, it serves me right. This is what I get for playing this hand so badly. Fold. The next hand I'm in the small blind again, because again, that's what happens after you are in the big blind. The under the gun player opens to $15 and the cutoff flats. Looking down at ace-9 suited, I decide to turn a hand that isn't a squeeze in this configuration into a hand that is a squeeze in this configuration. I make it $70 to go. Wasting 0 time, the under the gun player 4 bets into a pretty big size, $190. The cutoff folds. Facing this size, I'm really only going to continue with the best of my best hands. Ace-9 suited isn't that. I fold. The following hand, the straddle is on and the cutoff has posted after missing his blinds. The hijack limps for $10. When action reaches the cutoff, he raises to $50 and I re-raise to $150 with ace-queen suited on the button. The hijack folds and the cutoff thinks about this for a bit and calls the additional $100. Before we get to the flop, let me give you a little backstory here. The player in the cutoff joined the table a few orbits ago, has played a ton of hands, and has proven to be highly aggressive when check 2. The type of player that likes to bet, but isn't a fan of calling post-flop. Not a bad way to approach these games, and he's been running over the table using this approach. This is our first hand together. The flop comes out very favorable for me. Ace-6-3 rainbow. He checks, and trying to use his aggressive nature against him, I take a hand that I'm c-betting with the vast majority of the time, and I check. He checks again on the turn 8 of clubs. I stick with my strategy and check it back, because I'm not going to get this guy to call twice. The river 10 of clubs falls and he checks once more. My ruse to get him to stab apparently isn't going to work. I bet less than half pot on the river, hoping that maybe he will call me with a hand like jacks. Yeah, the backdoor flush coming in is a small concern, but the river check raise bluff line isn't used at this stake very often. No matter, he just folds, and although I win the pot, I think it would have been better served c-betting and continuing from there rather than getting overly fancy. Just bet the flop, man. You get value from 9s, 10s, smaller aces, all kinds of stuff. Getting all fancy, that's just not the way to be. Keep it simple. So far, not much has really happened in this session. I've won some small pots and I've lost about the same amount, so I'm still hovering right around my starting stack of $1,500. The under the gun straddle is back on and I open pocket jacks to $30 from the cutoff. I then get raised to $90 from the button. Action is folded back around to me and I have a decision to make. Jacks are a really good starting hand and putting in the 4 bet versus a button 3 bet isn't a bad play. in theory. However, in 2-5 reality, these players aren't 3-betting nearly as much as they should. If this button isn't 3-betting hands like pocket sevens or queen 10 suited or 6-5 suited at the proper frequencies, then me 4-betting jacks into the very top of his range is just torching money. Meaning, if he's only 3-betting ace queen plus and calling or folding everything else, I'm dead. All that being said, I opt not to 4-bet. I just call. Let's see a flop. Jack 10-9 with 2 clubs. So we flop top set. We check control over to the pre-flop 3-better. This should be a pretty good flop for the middling portion of his 3-betting range. Stuff like queen 10, queen 9, king 10, 10-9, and obviously king queen. However, he doesn't bet at this board. He checks. The turn 3 of clubs brings in the front door flush, which I don't block, and with no bets going in on the flop, our ranges remain unchanged on the turn. I check again. He checks it back. The river 4 hearts is a complete blank, and all the checking on previous streets is leading me to believe that our villain has stone cold nothing. This is ace king a lot of the time, and most of his ace high type hands won't be betting the river, as they can't really get called by worse. So I need to bet. I bet $60 and he thinks about this for a while and then folds.
Hey, I've been watching your vlogs and I noticed you open 4-5 suited a lot. You know it only opens like half the time from the low jack, right?
Oh, hey Landon. Yeah, I know, but I don't get it half the time. Like I alluded to earlier, I'd win a small hand and then lose a small hand and wouldn't really get much traction going up or down. In this hand, I opened red 10s to $15 and the cutoff next to act flats. The small blind then squeezes to $80 and I call from the hijack. The cutoff, who flatted my open and is now in position on the 3-better and my flat call of the 3-better, folds. God, I'm confused. I'd really like to see what hand he had there. Anyway, we go to the flop heads up. King 9-6 with 2 clubs. The small blind continues for $95 and to that size, we find a pretty easy fold. Here's an interesting sequence of hands. The action-destroying button straddle is on for $10 and I open Jack 10 offsuit from the low jack to $30 and get called by the hijack and the button. Nothing doing on the Ace 3-7 rainbow board and all players involved check. The Queen of Spades turn puts 2 spades on board and gives me a gut shot to the nuts. We check, the cutoff bet's $80 and the button folds. I don't really have the right price to chase the 3 clean outs I might have. I fold as well. Next hand, we open Jack 10 offsuit again. No hellacious button straddle on this time, so we make it $15. This gets called by the button and the small blind. On a board of 8-7 deuce with 2 clubs, the small blind donk bets $45, which is pretty sizable, into 2 people. Holding 2 overcards, a gut shot, and a pipe dream of a backdoor flush draw, we call and the button folds. The plan now is to turn a non-club 9 and ruin this guy's entire life. But our plan fails. The 5 of diamonds slides into the turn where I wanted that 9. He continues for $80, which honestly doesn't make much sense as a size, but it doesn't matter. I'm not continuing anyway. I fold. 2 Jack 10 offsuits, 2 L's. In the hand following that, the small blind opens to $15, and we flat from the big blind with another Jack in our hand, this time with an ace kicker. He checks the 9-7-3-2 diamond board, and although we are heads up and blind versus blind, and thus both pretty wide, this board is slightly better for me as the caller than it is for him as the opener. We bet $25, and he check raises us to $65. We fold. The hand after that one, I look down at Jack 3 suited with a button open in front of me. No thanks. Fold. We fold 7-6 offsuit following that hand and then lose a small pot holding ace 10 of diamonds. And then look down at the end boss of all Jack hands. The hand with the worst hand nickname in all of poker. We look down at, I can't say it. I won't. You know what it is.
Those are called jiggities.
The low jack opens to $15 and I raise to $50 in the hijack, and the low jack calls. I brace myself for the disappointment that I'm sure is coming. An 8-6 rainbow. This is a pretty dynamic board. This board is scary. He checks, and I'm not really going to delve deep into the technical mumbo jumbo of why I'm not betting here a lot. I'll just say, I'm not betting here a lot. Off to the turn. The turn pairs the 8, and now the low jack leads for $60. I know that he can just be leading with a 10 at this point, although an 8 isn't out of the question. So I just call. As an aside, remember towards the beginning of this vlog when I let the turn small when an 8 hit and I made a reference to freezing the villains because they can't raise, even with aces? Remember that? Case in point. There aren't really a ton of rivers here that are going to have me feeling comfortable if big bets start flying at my face. However, the river that I am given, the Jack of Diamonds, is one of them. In a cruel turn of events though, the turn leading low jack now checks. What kind of shit this is? That ain't gonna fly. We reach for and bet $140 hoping for the best. But he folds. So I guess you can win holding a jack. As long as you have 2 of them. We are going to have quite the boring mid-session update today. Been in this 2-5 game for about 3 hours and I'm miserable. Miserable. I am the definition of misreg right now. I'm actually sitting at the table watching Rocky 2. Which, if you haven't seen it, I won't spoil it. Rocky's a fighter. Look it up. In my game, I can get nothing going. I can open. I can find the occasional hand to play pre-flop. And that's about it. In fact, I've been here for hours and I say that I'm running bad, although I did just river a full house with pocket jacks. But I'm miserable. I'm not having a good time. This is not having a good time, Jamin, doing a mid-session update. So now we need to make a decision. Do we stick it out and wait for it to turn around? Or do we just get the hell out of here? I think I'm currently down, I don't know, not a ton, like $200-300. But we are just not feeling it. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I think maybe I'll give it another 45 minutes. That's the decision, 45 minutes. We'll see if I feel better in 45 minutes. If not, I'm out. Down 300 or not.
Goodbye. There's one thing I want you to do for me.
What?
Come here.
What?
Win. Win.
What are we waiting for? Take this!
You ever feel like you wanna stop? You ever been close to the top? You ever looked at your past and kept moving forward and never looked back? It's a hard knock life, full of sacrifice. It's the only way to live when you know the price. It's the only way to move when you know it's right. It's the only way I know to fight the good fight. Yeah, and I done been through it all. Stood tall with my back against the wall, lost it all and got it back and answered my call to the light from the dark, to healing a broken heart. Never give up, you gotta see the future in the bigger picture. This is the fight of your life, you're looking in the mirror, and the belief that you have will help you see it clearer. This is your moment of clarity, it gets no realer. I'ma keep fighting, I will hold my ground. I'ma keep fighting, ain't nobody ever gonna hold me down. Keep fighting, I will hold my ground. I'ma keep fighting all the way down. All the way down to my very soul, and down to my last bone. To my very last breath, I'ma keep on. I'ma stay hungry, I'ma stay strong. I'ma keep fighting, I'ma hold on. Stay driven, push my line till that line's crossed. Hard work every day, no days off. Yeah, and pay it forward till it pays off. I'm down in the trenches with a mission. I'm running miles, no towels for the blood and the sweat.
In this next hand, the hijack opens to $40. Yes, opens. The's no straddle, no dead money, just opens to $40.
It's outrageous, egregious, preposterous.
The cutoff flats this large open, which is very intriguing. I look down at ace 4 of hearts on the button and really want to raise. But that opening size, what is that about? If I call and happen to flop well, I might just get that entire stack. I call. The flop of Jack 7 Rainbow makes less likely the one hand that I see people opening for very large sizes with from the equation. The opener checks and the board gets checked through. The turn 4 clubs puts a backdoor flush draw on board and the opener checks again. The cutoff now bets about half pot. Well, I have a pair. Although it's still very likely that I'm behind any of the pairs the cutoff is betting, I'm probably ahead of whatever the hijack opened with. I can't explain it, but the cutoff just feels very weak. Like, super weak. I call. At least half of my hypothesis is correct because the hijack folds. The river 5 of hearts shouldn't change anything and the cutoff is still giving off super weak vibes. And that kind of falls right in line with his action. He checks. I check behind and he exposes ace 10 of clubs for the missed ace high nut flush draw and I win this one with a pair of 4s.
Yeah, and pay it forward till it pays off. I'm down in the trenches with a mission. I'm running miles, no towels for the blood and the sweat. Just a heart full of fight and a soul full of vengeance. I'm full of hope, no time for regret. I'm a champion, and I reign supreme. This is my time, crown me king. I'm a legend, and I reign supreme. This is my time, and I'm living my dream. I'ma keep fighting, I will hold my ground. I'ma keep fighting, ain't nobody ever gonna hold me down. I'ma keep fighting, I will hold my ground. I'ma keep fighting all the way down. I'ma stand my ground, huh? Can't hold me down.
Sometimes things just don't make sense. When things don't make sense, you're just going to have to show me. I'll pay for it. Just show me. Here, there are 2 under-the-gun limps, and I raised to $30 in the low jack with 10-8 suited. Surprised, but not surprised, but a little surprised. The big blind calls, and one of the under-the-gun limpers calls as well. Three of us lay eyes on King 8-6 with 2 clubs, and action gets checked through. The turn brings the King of Hearts, and the big blind checks, but now the under the gun limper bets $50. So if I'm to understand this, the under the gun player limps with the king in their hand? This is the same player that was opening the $40 earlier, so exactly what king are you limping with? Or did you limp with 6s and not donk the flop? Because I've seen you donk the flop before too. You're just gonna have to show me. I'm a non-believer. I call. The big blind folds. The river pairs the 8 and gives me a full house, and now the under the gun player checks. It's rare that you see someone turn trips and river a full house and not bet. Even rarer to see someone flop trips and turn a full house and not bet both turn and river. So needless to say, I have the best hand by a mile. We severely down bet here. $25. And after a short Hollywood, they fold. Honestly, in this session, I wasn't in the best mood. I'm human. It happens. I really just wasn't feeling it, and when that happens for any extended period of time, it's just time to leave. If the game was magical, and there were multiple whales just firing money to and fro, well, I'd probably find the internal fortitude to stay, and this wasn't that. And it's not like I don't have dishes to do at home. Let's just get out of here.
King high.
Oh, what a session, if we want to even call it that. Wow. So, the card deadness that I spoke about during the mid-session update continued, and the 45 minutes that I said I would stay for was extended for about another 2.5 hours. And in that additional 2.5 hours, nothing happened. Nothing happened in the hours before the mid-session update. Nothing happened after the mid-session update. And I know I'm not supposed to say anything about results. So, we find ourselves back on the roof. I know I'm supposed to not say anything about session results. But honestly, there's nothing to say about that session. In fact, I have zero clue I'm going to even turn this into a vlog. And I know I say that a lot, like I don't know how I'm going to turn this into a vlog. But this one, really the only hand I played after the mid-session update was me picking up pocket aces in the small blind and winning like $200 before the flop. And I didn't even get that recorded. Frustrating session. So we are going to do a quick criminal check because I'm probably not going directly home. Let's just do the wrap up here and now. And for 1500 out for 1728. Not much to say about that. I think I was down, or at least I said I was down about $300 at the mid-session update. I was probably, I guess, only down about $200 because besides winning that pot with aces pre-flop for like $300, I don't think I really won much else. So, up a little bit. And with that, we're getting out of here. And we'll try this vlog thing again later. So, like, subscribe, like the vlogs if you like the vlogs. You know the stuff. You know. I'll catch you next time. Bye.
I'ma keep fighting, I will hold my ground. I'ma keep fighting, ain't nobody ever gonna hold me down.
When you play a poker tournament, 85% of the time you're going home broke.
This is part of the game. You can't be results oriented where you can play well and lose for a long period of time, and you have to be willing to sustain that.
How do you learn to deal with the shit that luck is going to throw in your way? Because, you know, let's face it, it's going to throw some stuff your way.
Right, you just show up, you study, you still lose, and you show up with a smile again tomorrow.
I just set out to play poker. I was like, I want to play poker, win at poker, make some friends. I don't know, get into tournaments, maybe win a big tournament, get rich like everyone else.
These people are your friends, but you're trying to kill them. And then as soon as the game's over, like, you're all friends again.
They allow you to kind of like step back and say, like, I truly fucking love this game. And it's just a lot of fun to sit down against 7 opponents, compete, and, you know, try to come out on top.
Poker's taught me so much about life. I feel like so many decisions that you make off the table can be influenced by the way that you think about poker.
Poker was the first time where I was able to fail monetarily, feel really bad about it, and still think it's all right because you can learn from everything.
I think it's becoming more a story of resilience, and I hope what this entire content project does is I hope it peels back the curtain of our industry a little bit, peels back the curtain of our community, and you get to see like what the best and brightest in this poker industry are all about.
Poker is all about chasing your dreams, taking your shot and changing your life. You don't have to be an athlete. You don't have to be, you know, in as good a shape as me. You can go out there and, you know, be anybody and be successful.
This is the first pot here at our final table.
When you're faced with adversity, you know, champions rise up.
Sorry to disappoint you, but I didn't mess up that many times this time. Not that many. Near perfect. In fact, been here for hours. I think I just won my 4th. We just got back from the mid-session updates. Yep, mid-session updates.
My first big tournament. Prop bets are forgotten as I sit on day 2, my first ever second day in a tournament. I can't get over the fact that I'm playing a tournament that has multiple days and feel like I'm riding on some sort of major breakthrough.
And I know I'm not supposed to say anything about results, but look, I'm on a bridge with no one around. And there really wasn't that much, and there really aren't that many results to talk about. So in for 1500, out for 1728. Down 300 into up 28, or up to 28, I have zero clue, because I really didn't win much.
Just a dead man walking.